All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
All right, we are back. Yes, what a win for us. We've got Man United friend, my man, Lyés in the house. So we're going to give it to him because Man United's been in the mud. Nischal, who's just been to Stamford Bridge yesterday with the press pass. So we're going to talk to him about how, the reactions were live. But before we get into all of that, obviously we're going to do the recap of the Premier League. Thank you, Ricky Asa, Good Vibes, for joining into this stream, and I'm sure more will join throughout this session. First of all, Lyés, my man, how you doing?
Man, every time I've been on your show, I've been in a good mood. Coming off United wins, top of the table, but I got to eat some humble pie today. But
that's right, baby.
As usual, man, I'm ready to spitball. Let's get at it.
Absolutely, you're going to be eating some humble pie. We can't wait. Nischal and I, we're going to give it to you, brother. Nischal, my man, how you doing?
I'm very well. Long weekend, but very good one with Chelsea winning. It's been a long week, but one that's been very enjoyable with our new manager, Thomas Tuchel. And I'm looking forward to being back on after missing yesterday. So again, apologies to your viewers for not making it yesterday, but I hope today makes up for it.
Nah, man, not at all, man. I mean, completely understandable. You were at the match. But obviously, we talked about maybe next time when you go, perhaps we can do a pre-match vid or even during halftime, we can catch you, which would be great. Emmanuel, thank you, my man, for joining. I hope you guys have a very enjoyable show. What we're going to do is we're going to recap the Premier League weekend, first of all, and then we'll talk about Nishal's experience, obviously, at Stamford Bridge, and we've got some exclusive pictures with players and some videos and whatnot, which will be interesting to have a look at. So let me just bring up this Premier League table. Just bear with me, guys. Ooh, that's not cool. Hold on. Let me just drop that stream. Just bear with me, guys. Technical difficulties all the time. This is what happens. Here we go. Yep. All right, let's bring this up. What we want to do is, boys, I want to go through the results, obviously, of the weekend. That's clear for you guys, yeah? You guys can see that? Let's make it a little bit larger. All right, that's better. Okay, first of all, boys, let's talk about Newcastle Everton. I thought this was a very, very strange result for me. Everton at home. Everton's probably one of those teams that are chasing for top four. Newcastle's been, this is the thing, boys, this season. I don't know if form really matters. Newcastle have been in absolute shambles of a form, but they go out there, get the win away from home, 2-0. Nischal, first of all, your thoughts? I mean, definitely you were surprised by this result, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Newcastle were the underdogs. They've been all right recently, but Everton being a home side, of course, you have a favourite in there. But we can't forget in the reverse fixture in November, Newcastle did actually win 2-0. And that's when Everton were really flying high at the top of the table. So in that regard, it's not too surprising. Good to see Callum Wilson get a brace. That's great for him, great for his confidence. Of course, Everton, questions to be asked about their defending, especially their mentality at home. They're still in the top four race, still going for European football. It's not over, but after 2 defeats to Newcastle, having the double completed over by the Magpies, it's very interesting and quite shocking to see them concede twice and lose at home. But great result for Newcastle nonetheless.
Yeah, 100%. Everton's 8th at the moment, but they do have 2 games in front of us. But we're ahead of them due to the goal difference. We'll come back to the Premier League table a bit later. We'll keep the Chelsea versus Burnley a bit later on. Lyés, my man, Aston Villa versus Southampton. I think this was a big game, I suppose, for both the teams. Yeah. Both teams are pretty strong. Southampton now are supposed to back-to-back losses, one to Arsenal, now to Aston Villa. I mean, look, I'm not entirely surprised by this result. Probably expected a draw here. But Aston Villa is a top-quality team, yeah, Lyés?
I've been raving about Aston Villa since game week 1. And first of all, I have to say Jack Grealish is my candidate for player of the season. I think he has been a revelation in that Villa team, and I think you're finally seeing the best of him now that they've added some key pieces in places that they really struggled in last season. They probably have the best goalkeeper in the league this year, and Emi Martinez. Matty Cash has come in, made that right back spot his own, and he finally has a striker now who can bury the countless chances he creates, which is Ollie Watkins. Of course, the goal scorer was Ross Barkley, your very own. But that just kind of shows the quality that Aston Villa has in this team, right? Like Douglas Luiz and McGinn are one of the best pivots in the Premier League.
Very good quality, man. Honestly, they really have a good team.
Very, very balanced team as well. And as for Southampton, I mean, you brought up 2 losses in a row. Guess who they play next? Manchester United. What a perfect time.
No. Yes, that's good news for us. We'll keep the Arsenal Man United for later on as well. Obviously, that's Lyés' team, Man United. So we'll talk about Chelsea and Man United right at the end. Nischal, Fulham versus West Brom. I mean, look, I probably expected Fulham to win this one. By the way, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Nischal, that was probably one of his best games he played. He was dynamic. He was absolutely at his blockbuster best, just splitting through the midfield, really taking the defense on, deserved a goal. I think he might have got an assist. I'm not sure. But West Brom with Sam Allardyce, they kind of brought him in to save the season. But, do you sort of think these two teams are probably going to get relegated, or do you probably see Fulham somehow squeezing out of it? I mean, looking at the table, I think Brighton's at 21 points, Fulham's 14, so there's quite a bit of gap.
Well, there's a gap, but it can absolutely be made up. We've seen bigger recoveries. Sunderland, in all those years ago, Leicester, of course, the year before they won the title. So I wouldn't rule them out just yet. At the start of the season, absolutely. Didn't rate Fulham, didn't rate West Brom. But they've both been in decent form recently. West Brom against Fulham, though, West Brom were very poor in the first half. Not a sniff at goal. They were letting the visitors just come in, take the game, which is really surprising. But fair play to them. They turned around in the second half. Unfortunate not to get the win, but that's all thanks to Ruben Loftus-Cheek for me. I think it's been a shame because, of course, he's had that injury now 2 years ago, but we still feel like bit by bit he's still in that recovery phase from that injury is what it feels like. But he had an excellent game, really outstanding in midfield. And the main thing is, can he bring that form back to Chelsea? That's one thing. But can he get back into that Chelsea team? We've got incredible midfield depth. A new manager, Thomas Tuchel, will he even give an iron to Ruben Loftus-Cheek, or will he be out on loan, or even permanently? It's going to be a long journey for Ruben Loftus-Cheek, but if he keeps playing like this, he's got every chance of being in the Chelsea team next season.
No, absolutely. Lyés, I mean, Nischal brings up a very good point. Obviously, we've got massive depth in midfield, but I think a player like Ruben Loftus-Cheek just brings that X factor, doesn't he? I mean, blockbuster runs, defensively solid, that beast of a body size, aerially dominant, can dribble, can score. If this guy continues his form, I suppose hopefully he can continue this for Fulham. Surely he's got a place for Chelsea, yeah?
I mean, you'd have to think so, because while you do bring up a good point, Chelsea has a lot of depth in midfield. I don't think they have a profile like a Ruben Loftus-Cheek, a ball runner, a guy who's able to shake off midfielders at ease. He's proven that he can be a goal scorer even in his days at Crystal Palace and that season under Sarri. I think he's such a rare profile in the modern game that if you can get the best out of him, which has always been the big if, right? Keeping him fit and keeping him consistent. But if you can get the best out of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, which Scott Parker is proving to be able to do, you have a hell of a player right there. And he kind of gives you like Yaya Toure vibes, honestly. That's what he gives to me. When he gets on those runs, just shaking off defenders with ease, like he's a really promising prospect. But like I said, it's all about keeping him fit and keeping him consistent.
100%. Let's move on to the next one. Nischal, I think these guys are title favourites for me. Without a doubt, Manchester City. Their December form and now their January form. Without KDB for the last couple of games, Gundogan has stepped up immensely. He is controlling that midfield. But it's not just that. Defensively, they're looking so resolute with Ruben Diaz. In the initial stages of the season, defensively, they were looking a little bit shady. But they seem to have got all of that sort of undercover. They're not leaking goals at all. As I said, midfield is looking good, and they're firing goals up front. Obviously, this game, it was just a 1-0 game, but Sheffield, obviously, they're sort of coming back into some sort of they beat Man United. By the way, Lyés, Sheffield got you guys, but Nischal, your thoughts on Manchester City? Do you see them now being clear-cut, I suppose, Premier League contenders? Obviously, looking at the table, they've played 20, so they've got 1 in hand, and they're 3 points ahead of Manchester United.
Well, I'm sure you can call them title contenders. There's no doubt in that. But can we call them title favourites yet? I don't think so. And that's purely for the fact that I don't think there's one favourite for the title. We've had 9 different teams top of a Premier League table this season. Half the teams in the league have been top at one point. So it shows you there's no clear-cut favourite. This point last year, Liverpool was something like 20 points clear. We knew they were going to win. We didn't want to admit it, but we knew they would. This season, we've got contenders. We've got City, United, Liverpool, Leicester. But there's no clear definitive one. But on the other hand, City have been excellent in recent form, really picked themselves up, solid at the back. Of course, Ruben Diaz, John Stones, all excellent. And as always, Pep Guardiola, with his team selection, he has such amazing squad depth that even without Kevin De Bruyne, even when resting the likes of Ruben Diaz or John Stones, they're still strong. The scoreline may be a bit surprising. You'd expect a bigger win. But of course, Sheffield United just beat yours truly, Lyés. They came off a good run of form. And, 1-0, it's not awful. Out one of the strongest teams in the country. City did deserve a win, though. Good goal by Gabriel Jesus. And that game in hand will come in very handy. And I think, they've definitely got a strong stake for the title, but there's a long way to go. We can't forget that.
No, 100%. I think what I'm more sort of weary is look at the form. W, and I think there were all W's before that as well. So that's the crazy part. And as you can see, other teams, very inconsistent. Obviously West Ham, they've been all right actually in recent time. But yeah, Manchester City undoubtedly have been the form team in the league so far, whilst everyone has been sort of a bit up and down. Lyés, Wolves versus Crystal Palace. I got to say, man, Wolves annoy me, bro. Honestly, Wolves annoy me. They come to Stamford Bridge, they park a double-decker bus, plane, whatever you want to call it. They don't want to play. And then they go to Crystal Palace and they get beat. And this is the thing about Wolves this season. I've seen that. I don't know. Like, I feel like Nuno, he's not really setting up his team to go out there and play some football. He's picking and choosing. I get that. I mean, maybe their team is not good enough to compete against some of the top boys. But last season or even seasons prior, they always used to have a mad dig at the top boys, and not just the top boys, at any team. This season, I'm pretty sure where are they in the ladder at the moment? Table, they're 14th, and look at their form: draw, loss, draw, loss. Is this a surprise result for you, or you sort of expect the Crystal Palace to have the victory here?
I've said numerous times this year, kind of sticking on Palace. There's a few teams I want to see get relegated from the Premier League, and Palace is one of them, right? I cannot stand Roy Hodgson, Steve Bruce, Sam Allardyce. I just think these are dinosaurs of football, right? And I think it's weird.
Respect Roy Hodgson. Respect Roy Hodgson.
I can't respect Roy Hodgson. I think his time has come in the Premier League, but I still think at the same time, Crystal Palace are one of those teams that they're not good enough to make Europa League or challenge for those places, but they're ultimately too good to go down. But sticking on Wolves, I think there's a few key factors when you look at their team that kind of explain their recent run of form and their form ultimately all season. And first of all, it's the loss of Raul Jimenez, who is the talisman of this team, and I think is really the reason he's the emphasis of everything Wolves does. Like, the reason Adama Traore was so good last year and not so good this year is because he has effectively lost the guy that his crosses find in the middle of the box. And in has come the youngster from I think it's Silva from Porto.
Yeah, Fabio Silva.
He's just too young. He's not at that level. And they brought in Willian Jose now on loan from Real Sociedad. Will he be able to replicate what Raul Jimenez does? I don't think so, because what he does for this Wolves team is so key. And he's an aerial threat. He's good in link up. He's good with his back to goal. He's just a terrific forward. And another thing is the decline of João Moutinho. And it's not the decline in form. He's just getting older. His role in the team is kind of declining. And you have now Ruben Neves and De Donker in the midfield. And I think Neves has kind of been exposed as not as good as a lot of people thought he was earlier in his career. But I think all those things kind of culminated in a Wolves have kind of just halted. Their progression over the last few years has kind of stalled. And this is definitely not like Wolves are not this bad, right? The way they're playing right now is extremely poor. But I think they will bounce back eventually.
Yeah, it was a very good talk that you've mentioned in regards to Raul Jimenez. He's been so integral to the whole setup, and not having him around, it just shows how invaluable that player is, right, guys? Like, I mean, a player like Raul Jimenez, just without him, Wolves are absolutely devastated. And I suppose this is where they bring in a player like Fabio Silva, and they're trying to mold him into someone that they can rely on down the track. And Willian Jose, we did see a little bit of him against Chelsea. He looks like a big striker, tall, and some are sort of making comparisons of him towards Diego Costa. Not the attitude of it, but in regards to the style of play. If they can get half the player of Diego Costa in Willian Jose, I think they'll do all right.
Yeah.
But moving swiftly along, this was an interesting result, which was very great for us. Nischal, Spurs versus Brighton. Brighton 1-0. I mean, but look, this is what I want to say about Brighton, Nischal. I think they're a very good footballing team. Like, they know how to play football. They play really, really good passing style of football. This season, for some reason, they're way below in the table, which doesn't reflect the way they've really been playing. But this result is a bit of a surprise. I know was Kane injured in this match, or he didn't play this match?
He didn't play this match. He was injured.
He didn't play this
previous match. Yep.
I still thought Spurs would have had enough, Nischal. What was your thought of this result? Obviously, perfect news for us.
Yeah, well, humour aside for Tottenham losing, massive result, but very surprising from Tottenham, of course. They've been in all right form, they've been high up the table, but on the other hand, we're seeing the cracks start showing Tottenham where we thought had been fixed with Jose Mourinho. We're still seeing a lack of depth with Harry Kane injured. Who's actually going to lead the line now? They don't necessarily have striker options. Sure, they've got Jim Son, Gareth Bale, Lucas Moura, but a target man, a striker to cover Harry Kane. They
got Vinicius over the summer. They brought in Vinicius.
But he's nowhere near the level.
Of course, Vinicius, but I don't think it's about level, but I think he's too young to be able to step into that role. In the future, absolutely. But in terms of stepping in, for Chelsea, for example, I won't say anything. He is still young. He's got a lot of time to build. But without that target man to cover Harry Kane, Tottenham won't be able to move forward. And I've seen talk about, Daniel Levy to blame, Jose Mourinho's inherited the wrong squad, the problems are still there. It's an interesting time for Tottenham because, of course, we've seen him at their strengths even this season, demolishing Man United again, finishing at the top of the table, in fact.
Lyés, you're going to have a bad show, bro.
Any chance I get. We know how good they are. We've seen their quality this season, but if they're losing games to Brighton, with all due respect, how can you be a serious title challenger? Of course, it gets harder from here. They play Chelsea. If they lose that, there are serious questions to be asked, and it's a long way out for Tottenham.
I think there's a clear explanation for Tottenham. Well, obviously this game, and I think recently as well, and that's just simply the fact that they're so over reliant on Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. Like, when you look at the percentage of goals, not that they've just scored, but they've assisted as well. First of all, they're going to go through a horrible run now that they don't have Harry Kane, because that's 50% of their goals right there. He has been incredible.
And contributions as well, Lyés. Assists.
Yeah. No, Harry Kane leads the league in assists. He's been that good this year. And another thing I think I'm personally seeing is that cracks are beginning to show, like you said. Eric Dyer and Rodin and Alderweireld cannot comprise an excellent defense the way Jose Mourinho wants to. And when you're playing so defensive and relying on these guys, like you saw against Liverpool, the mistakes that Rodin made and Dyer made, like, okay, they're bad mistakes, but these aren't elite center halves that when you invite this much pressure, they're obviously going to make mistakes.
Yes.
And this is kind of just building up from what happened earlier in the season. If you look at the Premier League this year, the team that's lost the most points from winning positions is Spurs, and that's because they go a goal up and they just sit back and they just invite pressure, and they're not good enough to absorb all that pressure. This was a team I was super high on. I took a lot of stick yesterday on Twitter because an old video of me hyping up Spurs being title contenders resurfaced, but you're kind of seeing what happened with Jose Mourinho at United in his third season happen in the second season. And Spurs fans kind of sold their souls, right? Like they gave up beautiful football for the chance to win trophies. So now if they don't get those trophies, what do they have to show for it?
It's going to blow up in their face if they don't get the trophies. And I think Jose, look, at the start of the season, they were at one point, they were leading the table as well, I believe, just momentarily. At that point, they probably did consider themselves as one of the title contenders, but 100% right now in the form that they're in, Jose probably will sum it up very quick that perhaps get that league title, if they can get that title, number one, go as far as possible in Europa. They're still in the FA Cup, I believe. So for Jose, it'll be very much just winning one of the cups. I think in the league, as you said, Lyés and Nischal as well, the way Jose plays, and this is the thing, he keeps thinking that he has those days back in, Porto a long time ago, even the Chelsea of the classic days with Terry and Carvalho and all of those kind of players. He thinks that he's capable of doing that with any team. As you said, Lyés, Eric Dyer and Rodon, they're not going to be able to, take in so much pressure, especially with the likes of Liverpool or whoever else. If you're going to just sit back and just invite pressure and just solely rely on, basically going for counters, it's just too much. It's too much. First of all, shout out to 16 people that are on. Please smash that like button. We've got a super chat here. Let's take that before we go into the next particular game, which is Liverpool versus West Ham. Mansoor, great show, bro. Keep it up. Hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks so much, my man, for the support. Please follow my follow Nishal's blog as well, guys. It's in the description of my YouTube channel right now. In this particular show, you'll see Nishal's blog there. Very, very interesting stuff. Please follow that, and Lyés' channel as well, guys. The link is all there. Please subscribe to him. Follow him. He's a Man United fan, but who covers everything about football. He's actually got a really good video on Thomas Tuchel, so please have a look into that. Guys, let's now talk about Liverpool versus West Ham. This was, I'm not going to say entirely, I'll go to Nischal first of all. Nischal, I won't say this was entirely a surprise for me because Liverpool are a quality team. But looking at the form, where Liverpool has been in recent times in regards to many draws, not scoring, losing, West Ham on the other side actually been very, very strong, and them being at home, I kind of saw this as a bit of a semi-surprise, to be honest, for Liverpool. I think at one point Liverpool was 3-0 up. West Ham got that consolation goal right at the end. Salah has really come out and blew apart West Ham. What I want to say, Nischal, is a lot of people have been saying, Liverpool's in a bit of a blip. Why don't everyone talk about them? Why don't people talk about Jurgen Klopp? Why are people talking about Chelsea? I've always said it that they've got a manager who's so experienced, and their blip is really not a massive blip because at the end of the day, that team they know the winning mentality, and they were always going to bounce back. Is that how you felt about Liverpool, or did you think, oh no, they're in a bit of a decline now, and perhaps down the track, Jurgen Klopp's probably going to get sacked, or did you think otherwise?
I think it's fair to say there were times where you started to question, is this the end of Liverpool's reign? Could there be a new champion? But at the end of the day, it was an unfortunate run. Virgil van Dijk's been injured for months. Joe Gomez is out. Joel Matip is out. They've had to sign a championship defender and a Bundesliga relegation defender just to cover those woes. So, it's unfortunate timing that it all came together. But at the end of the day, we know what Liverpool can do. We know what they're capable of. To see this result, I'm not surprised Liverpool won, but I'm surprised in the manner they won. As you said, they were 3-0 up at one point. Mohamed Salah running the show. Really surprised to see West Ham so submissive because, generally you'd expect that from West Ham, with all due respect, against big teams, especially at home, they don't seem able to be able to cope with those teams. But in recent form, and they're so high up on the table, you'd expect at least the competition. But Liverpool just rolled them over, and it seemed like the old West Ham days under Slaven Bilic, under even Sam Allardyce, for going that far back. So, questions have to be asked to West Ham there. But it's not the end of the world. It's a difficult result against the league champions, but it doesn't mean West Ham are awful or dusted for the season. They've still got a lot of potential. They're still performing well, and they've still got a strong squad. Liverpool, on the other hand, we need to see a proper turn up in their form. They've had some good wins recently, but of course, they went all those games without scoring. They're out of the FA Cup. This has to be a season with no excuses because they've got one competition down. In fact, 2 cup competitions down. And Jurgen Klopp's always focusing on the Premier League and Champions League, but his weaknesses have been kind of throwing the cups away, not caring as much about the FA Cup. And now they're done with them. They've got to go full out in their final competitions because if they don't maintain their status and their, rule of
there's no legacy.
This season,
they're not building a legacy.
If they don't maintain it this season, I guarantee you in the summer, when everyone's recovered from COVID, when teams really need to improve and knock Liverpool off their perch, they will do that, and they will do that with some force.
No, absolutely, Lyés. We'll talk about title contenders, obviously, down the track a little bit more, but do you think Liverpool is still in this race at the moment? They're probably the biggest threat for Man City in this particular title run, or do you sort of count them out already?
I mean, I definitely don't count them out. Definitely not. I think there are 3 teams in the race. I think one team is the clear favorite for me. I still maintain City is the clear favorite, but I think City, United, and Liverpool will contend for the league this year. And I think one thing that's key to note about Liverpool is how they've been playing recently, the last 2 games, and even against United in the cup, which they ultimately lost. But Klopp has noticed that it's not just Van Dijk that's kind of changed about this team. The front three are not as cohesive as they were the last 2 seasons and the start of this year. And if you notice, a player who's getting a lot more game time is Xherdan Shaqiri. And that's because Shaqiri is kind of playing in the hole. And he's kind of changed it from his 4-3-3, where he has his 3 forwards pressed high and his 3 very energetic, hardworking midfielders. He's kind of changed it now where Thiago is not even playing the 6 anymore. He's playing the 8. And Shaqiri is kind of playing right behind 2 strikers. And the last game was Origi and Salah. Against United, it was Firmino and Salah. Mane dropped out. And it's kind of giving Liverpool shades of the old school Liverpool when Felipe Coutinho was still at the club. And the chances are kind of flowing back now. The attack is a little more cohesive because ultimately teams kind of found out the way Liverpool were playing a few weeks ago. And that was everything coming from the fullbacks, bombing in 50 crosses a game. If you notice, Liverpool recently haven't been crossing the ball as much. And it's a lot more attack through the middle. So that's kind of what's changed. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now because they do have 2 center halves that can fill in where Henderson and Fabinho have been playing. Maybe he moves those guys back into the midfield and we see the old Liverpool come back. But, I mean, he's definitely changed things up, and you have to give him credit. That's what the top managers do.
100% true, man. I think the whole crossing and hoping where a lot of managers were deploying that, at the end of the day, look, it is quite I'm not going to say always easy to defend, but generally it's easier to defend. And top managers do change that around and try and play through the middle as much as possible. Obviously, they will go wide nonetheless. But, Nischal, moving on to the next match, this as well was a bit of a surprise. But I do want to touch on one thing, and I think this particular manager gets a lot of disrespect in the timeline, especially in Twitter. Marcelo Bielsa, he really got touched up by Leicester in the earlier stages of the season, where I think Leicester was away from home, and they beat Leeds, might have been like 3-0 or 2-0, something like that. Leeds now have come to Leicester and really turned it around and beat them 3-1. Patrick Bamford, not many people are talking about this player. Patrick Bamford not only assisted in this particular match, I think scored 1 or 2 as well. This was definitely a surprise result, another result that has helped us out immensely. I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, talk to me about Bielsa, and do you think the disrespect sometimes he gets, is that warranted? And the other thing is Leicester the team that you possibly see sliding out from the top 4 if you see other boys like ourselves and a few other teams are chasing it? I mean, are they the team that are probably going to get knocked out? Your thoughts?
For me, it seems that Bielsa gets a lot of disrespect because of the respect he gets. He deservedly earns so many plaudits for what he's done across Europe in his native Argentina, and now with Leeds finally getting him up to Premier League. But now he's got to that stage, we see more and more critics. The higher up in football you are, the more critics you're going to get. That's natural. I don't think he should have been nominated for FIFA Best Men's Coach.
Yeah, true.
That's another story. But the disrespect is unfair. I think he's a great manager. He's an excellent tactician, someone I really enjoy watching and listening to. Yes, he's maybe not the top level of Jurgen Klopp or Hans-Dieter Flick, but to get so much disrespect for someone who's done such a great job doesn't make sense to me. Because if you're going to disrespect a manager, don't disrespect a manager who's got this team up for the first time in 16 years and has got them they're not battling relegation. They're comfortably in the table. They've established themselves, and they will establish themselves.
They go toe-to-toe with almost every big clubs. They do not sit back.
Everyone fears. No one goes to Leeds or says they've got Leeds and say, oh yeah, it's an easy game, easy 3 points. No. Everyone is afraid and cautious when they're playing them for good reason. That being said, great performance against Leicester. They got their revenge from earlier in the season. Patrick Bamford doing brilliantly. It's great to see him doing so well after leaving Chelsea. It didn't work out, unfortunately. But look, we always knew he had this potential. We always knew he was good enough. Not at Chelsea, absolutely, but we see his qualities as a modern-day striker, making those runs in behind, getting those goals, having that awareness up front. That's what you need in a striker in the Premier League today. He's been excellent, and without him, Leeds would not be in the position they are today. No doubt about it.
100%. Just quickly, thoughts on Leicester. You see them sort of drop out from this top 4, or do you see some, maybe Man United as the other possibility to drop out from top 4? Because I don't really see Liverpool or Manchester City sort of dropping out. Nischal.
Me or Lyés?
Yeah, Nischal. Just quickly, Nischal, before I go to Lyés.
I still count them in a title race. I do. Maybe not on the same level as City, United, or Liverpool, but they're still strong enough. They can still play. they're still one of the top teams of the country. Yes, wasn't a good result, shouldn't have lost at home. But that aside, look at the overall picture. They're still up there. They're above us. They're just behind United. I don't think we should be ruling Leicester out any teams. We know what happened 5 years ago. If there's any team you're not going to rule out, it should be the Foxes. So I'd keep them in the title race. Got to be hard, but they're still in it.
No, 100%. Lyés, in regards to Leeds, man, I mean, the kind of budget. I want to share something with you. I had Jay, who Nischal knows. You probably don't know, but Jay is another person that I have quite frequently in my show. He said something that still sticks with me, resonates with me in regards to Leeds. He said that Bielsa is the kind of coach that next season, because for a promoted team from the championship, it's very difficult for them to play attacking football. That's why they generally play defensive football, and they somehow generally squeeze out in the first season and they stay on top. But in the second season, they get caught out because defensively they're not capable anymore to keep out the big guns, and attacking-wise, they've not tried to attack. So that's why they generally see themselves getting relegated back again, which we kind of saw with many teams. But what you were saying about Leeds is Leeds are so good attacking-wise, and they've got some sort of philosophy in defending, that next season they shouldn't have troubles with attacking because they've already got that attacking sense. They'll just add one or two key pieces, perhaps in their defense, really solidify their defense, and they've still got that philosophy around their attack. And perhaps they could become an even better team next season if Bielsa stays on. Is that how you sort of picture Leeds down the track next season?
Mate, Leeds are, every time I watch them, I just think to myself, imagine they had a top budget and they could bring in players to replace guys like Stuart Dallas or Alioski on at left back. Like, these are very average players. And I have to disagree with your earlier point about Bamford saying Leeds would not be where they are without him. Patrick Bamford has the highest expected goals in the Premier League this year. Like,
he missed a lot.
They create the most chances in the Premier League, or not the most, but they create an incredible amount of chances for Patrick Bamford. And honestly, he probably hasn't scored half of them. He is a terrific striker, and I actually likened him to Berbatov. And I like this comment here saying he's such an elegant player. He's so smooth and so relaxed and so calm on the ball. When he does play up front, he brings others into play, as you saw with his assists this weekend. But in terms of finishing, he's quite hot and cold. And I'm just thinking, imagine they brought this top-tier striker to kind of replace Patrick Bamford. And this kind of goes back to my point saying I hope managers like Allardyce and Steve Bruce are taken out of the division. I love watching Leeds United play. As a neutral, they are easily, and I shouldn't be saying this as a United fan, but watching Leeds United, I don't like watching a team more than United more than them. Like, they play such attractive football. They go into every game giving 100%, trying to attack. And that's really, as a neutral, what it's all about, right? Like, if you're not watching your own team, you want to be entertained in football. And they entertain you every single week.
No, 100%. Arman Ali, boys, what do you think about this? Arguably a higher IQ than Haaland. I mean, look, I suppose, Bamford, with playing under Bielsa, his movement is very good. I've seen Leeds play, and Bamford's movement is excellent. He got that goal against us as well. I'm pretty sure you boys would agree. His movement in that particular goal was fantastic.
Yeah, he's smart.
Haaland is a different specimen altogether. I think the comparison, they're different types of strikers. Haaland is just, I don't really have even words as to how to describe someone.
Give me 30, 40 goals a season over IQ any day of the week, man.
Absolutely.
Goals win you games.
Absolutely. Let's now talk about the two games that is most important right here, and we'll talk about the table and the title race and whatnot. First of all, let's talk about Chelsea versus Burnley. It's timely. We can probably share some. Let me just quickly get back into this shape so that I can, bring out Nishal's. I want to bring some exclusive footage for you guys from Nishal's page, guys, so that he can sort of talk us through what has transpired yesterday. But yeah, Nishal, just from your point of view, Chelsea 2, Burnley 0. How do you see the match?
I was very pleased with the result. I think Chelsea played brilliantly. Arguably our best performance all season. I would say definitely one of ours. We had a new manager. We were getting settled in. And we just looked complete. We knew what we were doing. We were going forward with intent. We controlled the game. Burnley had nothing. They were barely in the game. And every time they did even close, Thiago Silva, Sedat Azpilicueta just completely nullified them. We were excellent, brilliant to watch. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Marcus Alonso really excelling as wing-backs. Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham unfortunately struggled, but at the end of the day, brilliant win, brilliant defensive performance as well. Couldn't ask for anything more for the first win under Thomas Tuchel.
No, 100%. I'm going to have a show tomorrow, just a heads up for all you guys, UK lunchtime, midday, Tuesday, where we will look at the tactical side of things of how Thomas Tuchel's using the three at the back and the wing backs and how he plays in the midfield and what the forwards do. So do look out for that. But yeah, Nischal, look at this picture. I mean, this is smack bang Stamford Bridge. How was the experience yesterday, my man?
It was surreal, very, very surreal, as a lifelong Chelsea fan, to be able to go back, especially after 10 months without having been anywhere near a Chelsea game, to be back covering the game as a journalist, doing my dream. It was absolutely fantastic. Great to be back, watch the game up live, being right next to the players. You'll see I was about a metre away from Kepa. Hearing Thomas Tuchel as well, very interesting man to listen out to, hear what he's shouting, see how he observes the game. And it was a really great tactical battle as well to witness up close. And as you can see, ended me in.
You got a bad boy Jorginho here. Is this the double pivot for Chelsea? Nischal and Jorginho.
That was very unexpected. I'll tell you actually, because I left the bridge very, very late, like an hour and a half after full time. Literally the last person to leave. And as I was coming out, I just saw Thiago Silva and Jorginho going out together. Wow. Shouted over him, well played. And then asked Jorginho for a photo. Very lovely. But yeah, amazing experience.
He looks like a humble guy. Like when you called him over, like he was humble enough just to come over for a photo, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. He had places to go, so he was like, oh yeah, if we just do it quickly. But he's very lovely, had a nice little chat, and yeah, really nice guy to me. I think he enjoyed just meeting a fan again, whether he knew I was a fan or not. I hope so, but yeah, really lovely to meet him.
Here's some video of Stamford Bridge. Yeah. Very empty. I mean, this is probably
Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, this is the only thing that sort of bothers me. That I've only been to Stamford Bridge once in my lifetime, and the atmosphere is electric, and to see the whole stadium empty is insane. I do want to share another video. You had another video where here we go. The bad boy Marcus Alonso, the scorer, the epic left wing back, the world's greatest left wing back. Nischal, your thoughts when you were seeing this guy? Did you straight away think this was post match or this was before the match?
That's Tuchel. That's Tuchel, by the way.
Oh, that's Tuchel. Sorry, but you do have something with Alonso as well, right?
There's a photo further down of Marcus Alonso.
Right, let's try and get. Was that pre-match or post-match?
This is post-match. This is Tuchel doing his post-match interview, and then about 10 minutes later, I was watching his post-match press conference on Zoom.
And this was post-match as well, or?
There's the man of a moment. This is post-match. This is them doing their normal media duties. So I think here he's doing his interview with BT Sport, the UK broadcaster. Marcus Alonso had a brilliant game. Great to see him back involved. Of course, as a left wing back, he is so much better than as a left back, where he can roam forward, really attack, and get in on the goals. And clearly, he can finish. He can score. He settled that game for us, and it's really great to watch him and see him back in the team after 4 months. He had an excellent game.
Absolutely. Liz, I want to talk to you about this particular player because it was an interesting post-match comment from him, or there was a segment after the post-match, and he was saying, I don't know, I'm pretty sure, I think he had a dig at Frank Lampard here, because the journalist was saying, how was your performance, how did you think about Chelsea? And he said, look, I'm very confident with our team, as long as we get the information, the tactical information, whose role is what, throughout the match, who needs to be where in the pitch, this team is capable of anything. And I just thought that perhaps he had a dig there on Frank Lampard. Clearly, I mean, at the end of the day, it was. Did you get to watch this match?
I watched the second half.
Yeah, so you would have seen Alonso's goal, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that happened in the second half. The thing I want to say about Alonso, Tuchel used him so well. Like, he predominantly focused our attack on the right. He knows that you're not going to focus on attacks on the left because Alonso is not that quick. And, he always covered Alonso with Rudiger just behind him, and the midfield few players would always cover that side. And he pretty much used Alonso as a left wing forward sort of player, predominantly just focusing on being wide and just on the left side if there's any crosses coming in, or even the chance that happened where he took it on the chest and then he volleyed it in. Do you think someone like Tuchel, because the fan base was absolutely in pandemonium when they saw him starting, and they were like, "Oh, not this guy again. We've already seen Alonso." You know what I mean? Like, is slow, he's lazy, so on and so forth. But someone like Tuchel, he would have known his weakness, and he just focused on the strengths.
I mean, Miz, there's a few things I want to touch on that. First of all, do you remember the stream that we did after the Leicester-Chelsea game, where I was saying, if you watched Liverpool at their best, the reason why Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson in the past were able to bomb forward so often is because of the support that their midfielders and the likes of Van Dijk and Gomez offered them when they did bomb forward. And I said something that Frank Lampard hasn't been able to do with this Chelsea side, and why you see Chilwell and Reece James caught forward so many times and with miles of space behind them is because I don't think there's the correct support in and behind them, next to them. I just don't think there was that ability. With Tuchel, we have seen at Dortmund and with PSG, he's extremely good at setting up a back 3/back 5. At Dortmund, you had the likes of Schmelzer and Piszczek on either side, bombing forward and covered by either Weigl or Gundogan or whoever was playing in that midfield position, Witsel. And at PSG, of course, you had Marquinhos either sometimes playing as a defensive midfielder, dropping into a back 3 with Silva and Kimpembe.
True.
He is extremely good at setting up back 3s, and that's not easy to do. As you've seen, you guys know that better than anyone. Antonio Conte mastered the back 3 in his first season at Chelsea. And I don't know if this is something that's going to stick with Tuchel. He is so tactically flexible that he can switch from formation to formation, but clearly you guys have the players in each position to make this kind of setup work. I think Reece James, I'd like to see him in that right wing position instead of Callum Hudson-Odoi, although Hudson-Odoi is doing an excellent job there. But you guys have those players in those positions to make it work. It'll just yet to be seen whether he'll go for a Chilwell or an Alonso or a James and a Hudson-Odoi.
No, 100%, man. We just lost you for a moment, but we got you back now. Here's an interesting comment here from Aman Ali. Lyés, did you delete that very interesting Mourinho tweet? What's he talking about? Talk us through a little bit.
I don't delete anything, man. I stay true to my takes. Wrong or right. The one that I said.
Talking about Lyés. What tweet is he talking about?
I posted a video. I told you in November, I think, before the Liverpool game, I said that our Spurs title contenders. And at the time, the video did quite well, over 3,000 views.
Right. I remember that.
It's resurfaced recently. But like I said, all my tweets are there to be seen. I don't delete anything. I take my L's on the chin.
No, absolutely. Just quickly in regards to, as I said, I will do that tactical analysis of how we are setting up. Tomorrow, do join for that lunchtime, midday UK time. But just quickly on that whole Callum Hudson-Odoi, I really enjoy, I'm enjoying the fact that Thomas Tuchel is using Callum Hudson-Odoi as a right wing back, which, look, it's a bit strange because with the ball, he's not really a right wing back. He becomes a right winger, and Azpilicueta becomes the right back. We sort of shift into the sort of 4 at the back with the ball. It's without the ball is when it starts looking at 5 at the back, and Callum drops to help out as well in defense or in midfield. But the thing about having Callum Hudson-Odoi over Reece James' quality in attack as well, his crossing is very good, but I think Callum, goes in front of him due to his ability to take on a player and going past players. His dribbling sense is a lot better than Reece James, and obviously, he's more of a goal threat than Reece James. But we will talk about that tomorrow. Obviously, great victory, as the boys have said, against Burnley. We're hopefully in a bit of a bounce back, and now we play Spurs next up. But this game, boys, Arsenal versus Man United. Man United coming off a loss against Sheffield United, which was honestly a very, very bad loss. I've seen some of the highlights in that match, man. Martial, oh my days, what is he doing? Your bad boy, Martial. I'm pretty sure you've got your jersey just behind you, Lyés.
No, that got taken down. That got taken down weeks ago.
You took it down. But this one apparently was a very, very boring game. But some was saying Man United did have the chances to take it and win it. They just didn't get lucky. Lyés, your thoughts, I mean, not too much about the whole match, but in the whole circumstance of, are you guys still in the race of this title? Or a lot of Man United fans have been saying, especially Rants, is saying that, okay, here we go, back on the top 4 race as opposed to the title contender. How do you sort of look into all of this?
I think we'll make top 4 this year. I'm pretty confident in saying that. But Miz, since we've been streaming together, I've said 3 things need to happen for United to have any chance of winning the league. And the 3 things were, number 1, they need to invest in defensive midfielder because Fred and McTominay, as useful as they can be in certain situations, they're just limited. You do not win league titles with Scott McTominay and Fred in your midfield. The second one is that I said Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had to be more adventurous in big games. And Arsenal, for example, starting Lindelof, McTominay, and Fred is not an example of being adventurous in a big game, right? It's being cautious. It's being the underdog. It's saying, okay, let's defend first and see what we can get out of it. And the third thing, this is the most important one, is I said we needed goals from more areas because Bruno and Rashford were the only ones scoring. And lo and behold, Bruno and Rashford have fell out of form. And who's going to score the goals now? That's the question, right? Martial can't score for his life. He's in dreadful form.
What's going on with Rashford, bro? Rashford has been a bit out of sorts.
Rashford is a weird one, right? Rashford has always been my favorite player at United because I the first game I ever went to Old Trafford was his first game. Like I have this, like that's my guy from day one. But something's wrong with him, right? His attitude seems to have completely dropped. And the one thing you seemingly always get with Rashford is work rate. And recently, it's just he's going through the motions in games. It seems like mentally he's clocked out. But for me, it's like, okay, these things happen, right? Players get out of form. But the best teams, like you were saying about City, they have so much depth and they have so many good players that, okay, if Mahrez is not scoring all these games or Jesus is not scoring all these games, Foden comes into the team or Ferran Torres comes into the team. United need contributions from Martial, Edinson Cavani, Mason Greenwood, and it's not coming frequently enough. And you saw this game, Edinson Cavani had 2 gilt-edged chances. The first one is criminal. It's criminal how badly he missed that. And a lot of people are saying, okay, United, they had 3 chances to win the game. And they had 3 big chances. Rashford, clear chance. Cavani, I mean, I'm confident I could score those, or at least put them on target, right? It was that bad. But I think my biggest problem watching that game was that that's all we really created. And this was an Arsenal team that were missing Saka, Aubameyang, Martinelli went off at halftime. Gabriel was not playing in the midfield. This is your opportunity to get revenge from earlier in the season and make your stamp on the title race. And I don't think they did enough. I think it's on the surface, okay, getting a point at the Emirates is okay. But is that really what title challengers do? Coming off a terrible loss against Sheffield United, you kind of want to bounce back and prove your credentials. And 100%. I feel like United have let a massive chance, a massive occasion slip. And now it's back to chasing first.
Arman Ali, Ole is pure vibes. United have the most talented team in the league. A serious manager like Allegri will instill the United mentality while getting the best out of defense. Look, I've had Lyés quite a few times in this show. And one thing Lyés have always mentioned that as well as probably Ole, at times gets the best out of this bunch of players. At the end of the day, you'd agree, Lyés, right? Like, you don't picture Ole to be a long-term manager.
No.
Tactically, he's not. No. I mean, this team, you have to admit, Lyés, that your team is a very strong team. I mean, I think not fool around about that.
Definitely, there's areas for me that still need strengthening, right? I'm not under the illusion that this is the complete United team, but we are good enough to go to Emirates without Arsenal's 3 best players and beat them. Like, that performance wasn't acceptable, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%. Nischal, let's now talk about the final segment of this show. We'll look at that table and talk about where the status is at the moment. Who are some of the teams that you're worried about? And obviously, the big question for us, we had to reassess our expectation considering where we were once Frank Lampard got sacked. Obviously, our target is still top 4. It was a little bit more than that in the sense that we wanted to bridge the gap between Man City and Liverpool. But maybe we need to relax on that for a little bit until Tuchel sort of gets comfortable. But top 4 is still the race. Who do you see? I mean, as you can see, Nischal here, Manchester City, 44 points with the game in hand, 20 played. Man United, 41 points. Liverpool, 40 points. Leicester City, 39 points. Chelsea, 33. We are 6 points away from Leicester with obviously quite a lot of games to play still this season. Nischal, who do you see us sort of, if we go on a bit of a run, who in your sort of mind they think that is going to get out of that top 4 where we can slide in?
Realistically, it would have to be Leicester, but I'm really skeptical. Is the same going to happen as last season where Leicester were high-flying second at 1 point and then completely dropped to the end, down into 5th into Europa League? That's what I see as the most feasible option this season, but I can't see Brendan Rodgers letting that happen again. Then again, Jamie Vardy out, that's a big loss, especially, Kelechi Iheanacho is either man to rely on. The Leicester still have a firepower. I think in a team, absolutely. But up front, you worry with them without Vardy. I think City, United, Liverpool, I think we can all agree they are pretty firmly in the title race and almost secured top 4. But are Leicester?
I don't know about United, bro. I don't know about United. I don't know, bro.
I will be honest. I think United. If I touch on your point about United, Lyés, I think you do have a strong team. Wouldn't say the strongest. I wouldn't say the strongest in the league, but I completely agree with you. There's a lot of things I think that need to be fixed. From the attack, excellent, like really good attack United, but there are a lot of holes in defensive midfield, in defence that you can definitely improve on to really go to that next level of City and Liverpool. But I do think you're in good enough form. You have good players, you have recruitment to get a top 4 at the very least. For Chelsea, I do want to be optimistic. I think we will and can get top 4, and that's what I'd be happy with. But to be really honest, if we got Europa League, I wouldn't be crestfallen. It's been a difficult season. We've had a lot to deal with. Yes, we were top of the league. Yes, we spent £200 million. I'm not denying that. But a lot has changed. We've changed our managers, our 15th manager now in the Roman Abramovich era. We can't ignore that. And a lot has changed. A lot has happened this season. So bare minimum European football, but we should at least be aiming for top 4.
Yeah, no, man, we don't mess around in Chelsea. If the manager's not doing good, we are chopping them. That's what we do because we believe in excellence in this football club. Look, man, I think Leicester, a week ago when Frank Lampard was still here, or even a couple of weeks ago, I was a bit weary whether we can actually achieve this because I couldn't picture us really trying, catching up. And now with Tuchel, hopefully with the tactical awareness that Tuchel has and the kind of stuff that he's already doing with the players buzzing. I know it's early days, but I have that belief that I think Leicester are definitely they are rattled. And I think Man United, if they continue on with the way that they've been continuing in the last couple of games, they could be in a bit of a shout. Obviously, Liverpool 3-1 victory against Spurs, 3-1 victory against West Ham. Lyés, I mean, to you now, man. Here's the big money question. Do you think, first of all, do you think Chelsea can catch up here? Number one. And number two, do you feel it's Leicester or both yourself and Leicester that's in sort of trouble?
I'll touch on that one first. I think United, really the next 2 big games are huge. They play Southampton at home and Everton at home. I think if they win both those games, then it's back to like the next few games on paper are West Brom, Fulham. You have to, as a United fan, I have to believe that they're going to win those games, right? If I don't believe that, then there's no point in watching the season anymore. So I think these next 2 games are huge. If they can win them both, their season gets back on track, or at least the title race gets back on track. We can continue to put pressure on City. If we lose or drop points in those 2 games, like I'm saying, even if we get 4 out of the 6 game points, we're back in the top 4 race. I think it's as simple as that. Like you guys are correctly pointing out, just a few run of games can change everything this season.
Absolutely.
On to Chelsea. I'll go on to Leicester. Can they fall out? Yes, of course they can fall out. But I look at their team, and one thing that's changed from last year is the depth. And okay, they don't have the greatest attacking depth. You correctly point out that Iheanacho is not a great backup striker, not in the slightest. But you look at their defense, for example. This is a team that this weekend brought on Ricardo Pereira and Soyuncu from the bench. Those are two defenders that probably start for 90% of the Premier League. They're that good. Leicester also are battle-hardened. They experienced failure last season. Like, they're a year experience. They have players. And another thing, Maddison and Pereira went down injured very early into the second half of last season. Unless that happens again, I don't know if you can bank on Leicester really falling out. And onto can Chelsea do it? Last year, United were in a kind of similar situation to Chelsea. So far off the top 4 in mentality, but also in points. It wasn't that far off. However, the reason that United managed to get themselves back into that top 4 position and Leicester slipped up, like I said, Leicester got injuries. It went down. The heads went down. And United went on this 15-20 game unbeaten run, which kind of started their season. And also Bruno Fernandes, of course, came to the team and changed everything. So, yes, Chelsea can win games and they can go on a good run, but they're also now banking on other teams slipping up. And is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? We have to see.
No, 100% agree. Just quickly from both of you boys, West Ham, what are they doing in 5th, boys? I mean, are they feeling all right, Nischal?
David Moyes has kind of earned some respect back, right? It's been a rough few years since United fired him. Sociedad, Sunderland, but I think he's found a good team. I think he's found a perfect team for him because he has now owners that aren't extremely ambitious, right? They don't spend a ton of money, but also they're willing to give him time. And I think what he's done is kind of cleared out the deadwood of like players like Felipe Anderson, Yarmolenko, Haller, players that were like big money signings but don't fit what he wants to do, which is like 11 committed guys that follow his game plan for 90 minutes. And now Antonio has been made the figurehead of the team. Jared Bowen is really carved out a role for him. And Souček and Declan Rice are one of the best pivots in the Premier League. So
yeah, undoubtedly.
All credit to David Moyes. Like, he's really reclaimed his berth as one of the Premier League's most respected managers, because that's really what he is.
No, 100%. You're right. Nischal, your thoughts on the whole West Ham thing? I mean, obviously West Ham, they're touting it as one of the best teams they've had in ages in the Premier League history. But do you see them sort of being in that position they're in at the moment, or do you see them sliding down?
Anything can happen, especially this season. You know, I still find it hard to believe that I'm looking at the table and West Ham are fifth. You know, they're historically, not just in the Premier League, but especially in London, seen as a team kind of just off the mark, always reminiscing about their success in the 60s and the 70s. But fair play to David Moyes. He's done really well. Something I was really impressed with, actually, was getting rid of Sebastian Haller. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him at West Ham, but they got rid of him for Ajax. Yes, of course, at a cut price. You know, they couldn't make a profit, but money is money. They got some back. As you said, Jared Bowen has been great. I completely agree with you as well about Declan Rice and Tom Souček. Absolutely outstanding this season, working really well together. It is really, really impressive and surprising to see West Ham so high up. And I've got no doubt that they can keep it going, you know, because if you compare it to the last time I remember a really good West Ham team was a 15-16 season. The last season.
Yeah. And, was that Payet? That was the season I saw Payet at West Ham Stadium against Liverpool.
Dimitri Payet last season at Upton Park. I think they went in the Europa League qualifiers, actually. That team was decent, but if we compare them to the team today, arguably we're looking at a better West Ham team. So I think the aim should be at least a Europa League finish, because, you know, England was still high up in the coefficient rankings. There are more places. If we're expecting, you know, City to win the FA, one of the big teams who will get Champions League place to win the FA Cup, and especially as the League Cup final, City against Tottenham, both quite high up. We could see those Europa League places drop down 7th, 8th, maybe even 9th. So I think West Ham, we need to keep them in contention, give them all the credit they deserve. It won't be easy, but if you're at this stage of the season, you're 5th, you deserve all the credit that you've earned.
No, 100%. Nischal, just quickly as well, Everton, Aston Villa, Arsenal, Southampton, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Aston Villa has 2 in hand. Everton has 2 in hand. Southampton has a game in hand. The points are very, very bunched together. Who do you see out of that to pose some sort of a surprise?
Well, surprise, I would say I can't really see any of them as a surprise. You know, Arsenal in their earlier form, yes, it'd be a surprise if they pushed up, but they're still Arsenal. They've still got that reputation. Aston Villa as well. They were high up. They're kind of just dropping down a bit now. Wouldn't be too much of a surprise to see them go back up. Same with Southampton, same with Everton. Really, all 4, you know, I could see them moving up. But I would say Arsenal, you know, yes, they're the biggest club there. But if you compare them to the first half of the season, you know, I've never seen a worse Arsenal team mentality-wise, philosophy-wise, playing-wise. And now look at them. They've gone on a brilliant run. You know, I've seen goals for really
they look resolute.
Vintage
They
Arsenal.
look really good now.
Absolutely. You know, they're still a way off in 10th. There's still a way to go, but they look better. Mikel Arteta, you know, he got the faith from the board. He got the trust. They've got the players. I think they could have made some more signings, maybe a new attacker or maybe a central midfielder. You know, of course, we've seen mixed fortunes with some of them, injuries, of course. But Arsenal are looking better. You wouldn't rule them out at this stage, given their form and given what they're capable of.
Lyés, out of that, for Everton, Aston Villa, Arsenal, Southampton, who could be a surprise package for your dark horse that could probably make a run here for top 4?
I'm definitely going to rule out Everton. I think Everton have shown every single season that one week they can get a good result. They drew 1-1 to Leicester over the weekend or in midweek, and then the next week they lose at home to Newcastle. For us, like, that's just Everton, right? They're always going to be 8th. They're always going to be 7th. They're always going to look promising at the beginning, and they're just going to burn out. That's just Everton. Southampton, I think, have honestly been disappointing. Like, you see three losses on the bounce. Like, at one point, they were really impressive, like very, very impressive. And that leaves Aston Villa and Arsenal. And I think Villa, like I said, I love Aston Villa. I love watching them play, and I think it's really good that a team as big as they are have finally kind of returned to their rightful spot in the Premier League. For so long in my childhood, Aston Villa was that 5th place, 6th place team consistently under Martin O'Neill. So it's kind
Do,
of
do, do you remember the Gabriel Agban-Lahore?
Ashley Young,
Lyes,
Stuart
Ashley
Dowling,
Young. Oh, that was a good team. That was a hot team, man.
really good team. They were consistently 5th place. But it's good to see them back. They're a big team in English football. But Arsenal, I think you bring up a really good point. The resurgence that we're seeing in them, and I think you have to give so much credit to Mikel Arteta, because the implementation of Emile Smith-Rowe and Bukayo Saka's role has grown. Like, Emile Smith-Rowe is a terrific player. Every time I watch him, I'm more and more impressed by him. And I know we talked a lot about United, like for the United side during this game that we just talked about, but Arsenal were really impressive, and they didn't carve out the best chances like United did. But their play in general, their press from the front, their resoluteness in defense, Arteta is really building something there. And I think the key thing will be how big an impact Martin Odegaard can make for that Arsenal team, because you have another creative player. The only real ones that you had were Saka and Smith-Rowe. Now you have Odegaard, who was seen as the next big thing in world football. What can he bring to that Arsenal team? He kind of operates off the right. You can have Saka on the left. You can have Smith-Rowe in the hole, Aubameyang up front. That has the promise of a really good attack.
They're building something. They're building something.
I'm very interested in seeing what's happening in Arsenal the next few months.
100%. I like this comment here from Michael on Wuka. Nah, Arsenal are not making any sort of resurgence. Arsenal might finish. I love that, man. That's proper Chelsea comment. I love that. That's gold. But guys, that kind of brings us to the end of the show. What a wrap this has been for the weekend Premier League. Look, this Premier League season is turning out to be an absolute corker of a season. We don't know what's going on. I think one thing I can definitely say is that Manchester City, their form has been probably one of the best throughout this December-January period. And they're going, head-to-head with almost everyone, without Kevin De Bruyne as well being injured possibly for 6 weeks. And they're still going ahead and winning. So they are probably the standout team. But after that, it is all up for grabs. It is literally up for grabs. Even though Man United is very far ahead in terms of points-wise, but their form can be dicey. That's the thing about Man United. Similarly with Liverpool, their form has been dicey. And the rest of the teams along the side. I think it's the team from here on who can manage to put together 4 or 5 wins together in a long run and not lose, will probably come out of the dust and try and take into that top 4 position. But boys, thank you heaps for joining each and every one of you guys. Nischal, thank you heaps. Lyés, thank you heaps. And for everyone that's come in throughout the session, thank you a lot. Please smash that like button. Before we go, Lyés, some final words from you, my man.
Hey, man, United will be back, hopefully. Well, all real talk. Thank you for having me on again. Nice to meet you as well, my friend. And if you love football content, make sure to check out my channel as well. A whole lot of mid.
100%. Yeah, Man United will be back in, under top 6. Do you know what I mean? They'll be back in 7th and 8th. That's where they're going to be back.
Run your jokes now, bro. I'll be back next week.
Please subscribe to Lyés' channel. It will be in the description right now. Please go there and subscribe straight away. And Nischal, my man, some final words.
Thank you as ever for having me on. Always a pleasure to be on, especially after missing a weekend. But great discussion. Great to meet you too. If you've enjoyed what you heard, you can follow me on Twitter at Nischal_SP. And if you want to read and see more of my work, go to nishalsblog.com for all of my work. But thank you for having me, and I hope you enjoyed the stream.
100%. Guys, if you've missed out on the middle section, we did go through how Nischal was in Stamford Bridge yesterday, and we went through some of the videos and pictures, so do look into that. I've got Nishal's Twitter page, just like Lyés' Twitter page, in the description, so please follow both of them, and Nishal's blog. Obviously, guys, don't miss out on that. Guys, on that note, just quickly as well, I hit 3,000 subscribers. Thank you, guys. Yesterday, I hit 3,000 subscribers, which is fantastic. Okay. This platform is growing nicely, so onwards and upwards to 5,000. That's the aim, hopefully next up. And then just like Lyés as well, 10K for the end of the year. That would be amazing for both of us. But yeah, guys, thank you heaps. Until next time, do catch me tomorrow, UK midday, lunchtime. I'll have Jay, Jam, and possibly Hajira as well, where we're going to talk about the tactical setup, how Tuchel's been setting us up. So that'll be quite interesting. I'll have the whole, the tactical board out in share screen, and we'll mess around with that. That'll be interesting to see. So yeah, guys, until next time. See ya.
Thank you.